Welcome, sleepy Slytherins. Tonight's story begins deep beneath Hogwarts, where something old is waiting in the dark water, and curiosity is about to lead you somewhere forbidden. So get comfortable, pull the covers close, let your eyes grow heavy, and sink quietly into the green-lit calm of the Slytherin dormitory. You wake because the lake is noisy tonight. The Slytherin dormitory is usually full of small sounds. The stove ticks as it cools. Someone turns over behind heavy velvet curtains. The old pipes in the wall knock now and then, as if the castle is clearing its throat in its sleep. Tonight, though, the water beyond the arched windows is louder. It rolls against the glass in slow, dark waves, turning the room green whenever the candlelight catches it. Your bed is warm. The sheets are cool at the edges, but soft where you have been lying. The blanket is heavy across your legs. The velvet curtains around your bed smell faintly of dust, old fabric, and lavender soap from the linen chest. Across the dormitory, Oren Blackettle is sitting upright in bed with a blanket around his shoulders and a biscuit tin balanced on his knees. His hair is flattened on one side and sticking up wildly on the other. He sees you looking at him. "I was already awake," he whispers. "That somehow makes this worse," you whisper back. Oren lifts one finger to his lips, then points towards the window. The lake is pressed close to the glass. Long strands of weed drift past like dark ribbon. Tiny bubbles rise in uneven lines. The water is thick and green in the candlelight. Something pale moves beyond the farthest pane. It slides through the dark, too large for a fish and too slow for the giant squid. For a few seconds, you see the curve of a long back. Then the shape disappears into the weeds. Oren lowers his biscuit. A curtain opens on the next bed. Mercy Blishwick peers out with one sharp eye and a mass of dark hair falling over her face. Mercy always wakes as if she has been called to inspect a badly written contract. Her father is a locksmith in Nocturne Alley, although he is mostly interested in hinges, jam tarts, and complaining about cheap screws. Mercy grew up watching doors give in. She understands locks better than most people understand manners. "If this is about the squid again," Mercy says, "I am going to hex your biscuit tin shut." "It had elbows," Oren says again. Mercy opens her curtain a little wider. "Describe the elbows." "They bent." That is a disappointing amount of detail. Before Oren can defend himself, Cassian Flint's curtains slide open. Cassian appears in a black silk dressing gown with silver edging, which is unreasonable at this hour. Everyone else looks as though they have been dragged gently through a laundry basket. Cassian looks ready to inherit a haunted estate. "Elbows in the lake," Cassian says. "This school does provide value for money." Mercy stares at him. "You are already thinking about going after it." Cassian smiles. "You say that as if curiosity is a crime." "In this castle, curiosity usually has a body count." Oren nods solemnly and reaches for another biscuit. Then the lake taps the window. The sound is small, careful, almost polite. A single knock against the glass. Every candle in the dormitory dips at once. For a moment, nobody speaks. Oren whispers, "I want it recorded that I dislike mysterious politeness." Mercy sits up properly and reaches beneath her pillow. She pulls out a folded square of parchment and spreads it across her blanket. The parchment shows a hand-drawn section of the dungeons, with notes squeezed into the margins in Mercy's tiny practical handwriting. One note reads, "Service passage behind lower tapestry. Likely sealed. Possibly flooded." Cassian leans over and reads it upside down. You get out of bed. The stone floor is cold beneath your feet. You pull on thick socks, then shoes, then your robe over your nightclothes. Oren stuffs biscuits into one pocket and a cheese scone into another. Mercy brings her parchment, a stub of enchanted chalk, and a narrow brass key. Cassian brings his wand, a silver-backed hand mirror, and the confidence of someone who has caused inconvenience in several postcodes. You all look at one another in the green half-light, and one by one, with the careful silence of people about to do something they should not, you nod. The four of you leave the dormitory quietly. The Slytherin common room is low-lit and almost empty. Green lamps glow along the walls. The leather armchairs sit close to the fire, deep and dark and polished from years of students curling into them after midnight. The room smells of smoke, old books, warm leather, and the cool damp that always creeps in from the lake. A first year named Toby Knott is asleep in an armchair with a book on his chest. Toby arrived at school with perfectly folded shirts and a terror of being ordinary. 3 weeks later, he won 13 sickles from a Ravenclaw by guessing which staircase would move during a storm. Since then, he has looked calmer, as though he has begun quietly planning his future influence. Oren pauses beside him and places a sugared almond on top of the book, purely because he cannot resist making the morning stranger for someone else. He'll think it's destiny. Cassian leads the way to a narrow alcove behind a tapestry of a serpent eating its own tail. The tapestry smells of dust, wool, and old secrets. Behind it is a stretch of stone wall. Mercy presses her brass key into a crack so fine you would never have noticed it. The key shivers in her hand. Something clicks inside the wall, a section of stone opens inwards. Oren peers into the darkness. I have changed my mind. You change your mind whenever a corridor looks damp, Cassian says. That is because damp corridors rarely lead to cake. The passage slopes down. You light your wand and the glow catches on droplets clinging to the ceiling. The air smells of wet stone, old metal, and the inside of a vase when the flowers have been left too long. The four of you step inside and the wall closes softly behind you. The passage is narrow and slopes deeper into the castle. Your shoes scrape softly over the stone. Every few steps, your shoulder brushes the wall and comes away cold and dusty. Somewhere ahead, water drips with a steady sound that makes the darkness feel larger. Oren walks close behind you. I would like everyone to know I am being brave against my will, Oren whispered, his voice strained. That is usually the most reliable kind, Mercy replied dryly. Cassian lifts his silver-backed hand mirror and angles it towards the passage ahead. What are you doing, you ask, checking whether anything is preparing to ruin my face. Does the mirror help with that? You ask, slightly bemused. It helps me look composed in emergencies. You roll your eyes. Of course, Cassian's emergency equipment includes a mirror. The corridor ends at a round metal door set into the stone. It is green-black with age, and the handle is shaped like a sleeping snake. Mercy bends close. This is older than the passage. Oren sniffs. It smells like a spoon drawer. Mercy presses her brass key into the snake's mouth. The metal jaws close around it. A voice speaks from the door. Name your intention. Oren looks offended. Why do doors in this school insist on knowing our business? Cassian straightens. We seek knowledge. The door remains closed. Mercy tries next. We seek access to a lower service passage for academic purposes. The door remains closed. Oren sighs. We saw something with elbows in the lake, and we would like to know whether it plans to come back. The handle turns. Cassian looks wounded. I gave it dignity. It wanted honesty, Mercy says. The door opens with a damp groan. Beyond it is a flooded stair. The water begins 3 steps down and disappears into darkness. Small ripples move across the surface whenever the cold air shifts. The smell rises at once: lake water, stone, weeds, and something fresh and mineral like cucumber peel and rain on slate. 4 dull silver charms hang on hooks beside the door. Each one is shaped like a small flat fish. Mercy lifts one and turns it over in her palm. Breathing charms, Oren brightens. Oh good, the kind of danger where we can breathe. They look old, Mercy says. Oren's face falls. Oh good, the kind of danger where we can briefly assume we can breathe. You each take a charm. The chain is cold around your neck. When the silver fish touches your skin, your ears pop and your tongue tastes salt, though the lake is fresh water. The feeling passes quickly, leaving your breathing slow and deep. Cassian steps into the water first, because he cannot bear being second at anything. The lake closes around his boots, his knees, his waist. When it reaches his chest, he pauses. It is cold, he says. How cold? Oren asks, like being judged by a dead aunt. Then he ducks under. One by one, you follow. The cold slips into your sleeves and under your collar, sharp enough to make your skin prickle. Your robe grows heavy. Your hair lifts around your face. For a few seconds, your heartbeat fills your ears. Then the charm settles. You breathe. Each breath feels slower than air. It tastes of stone, weed, and clean metal, like standing beside a pond with a coin tucked under your tongue. Your wand light spreads in a green cloud around you. The flooded stair continues down through the castle wall and opens into a glass-sided passage. Beyond the glass, the black lake stretches away into deep, shifting darkness. Fish pass through your wand light and vanish. Long weeds sway from the lake bed. A broken oar lies half buried in silt. Oren spots something silver near a rock and swims towards it. It is a spoon, he says, delighted. Leave it, Mercy says. It might be historic. He puts it back with obvious regret. You move along the passage, half walking and half swimming. Your shoes push softly from the stone floor. Every movement feels slowed by the water. Cassian's dressing gown floats around him in a way he clearly believes looks impressive. Mercy's hair has spread out like dark ink. Oren keeps rotating sideways and correcting himself with one foot against the wall. Mercy stops beside a cracked pane of glass. A thin white line runs across it from corner to corner. Beside the crack, someone has scratched words into the frame. Do not wake what remembers. Oren reads the words and looks furious. That is the least helpful warning I have ever seen. Mercy lifts her wand. The light sharpens. Below the words are older marks. A serpent, a crown, a long-backed animal with a wide horned head. Beneath it are dozens of tiny circles. They could be bubbles. They could be eggs. They could be eyes. You think of the tap on the dormitory window. Careful, patient, almost well-mannered. The passage ends where the glass has broken away completely. The frame opens straight into the lake. The water outside is colder and darker, with slow currents that tug gently at your sleeves. Far below, a green glow pulses. It is faint at first, like the glow of a watch face under a blanket. Cassian points down. Together, you descend. The castle wall rises behind you like a cliff. Above the dormitory windows are dim squares of warm green light. It is strange to see your own safe room from the outside, small and golden and tucked into stone, while you drift in the cold water looking back at it. You remember your first night there. You had lain awake under the velvet curtains, listening to unfamiliar breathing from the other beds. You were too proud to cry and too tired to sleep. Someone, probably Oren, had whispered that the fish in the lake could see through the curtains. Someone else, almost certainly Cassian, had said that any fish watching him sleep would become more cultured. Mercy had thrown a slipper across the room and hit a wardrobe. By morning, everyone had pretended to have slept perfectly. Slytherin homesickness is rarely named. It hides in sharp remarks, overpacked trunks, letters written and folded away, and the way older students leave an extra blanket near the stove without saying who it is for. A shape moves beneath you. Everyone stops. The green glow pulses again. A ridge rises from the lake bed, long and pale and plated like old armor. Then more of it appears. What looked like a ridge becomes a back. What looked like a rock becomes a shoulder. The creature is lying in the silt, half covered in weed, its body curled around a hollow of stones. Its skin is the color of candle wax seen through green glass. Along its spine, flat, translucent plates glow softly from within. Its head is broad and low, with two swept horns and a mouth that looks far too solemn to belong to anything friendly. One eye opens. It is enormous. Oren makes a small sound of horror and victory. The creature lifts one long forelimb and taps the lake bed with a jointed claw, an elbow in its own peculiar way. Oren points at it with frantic satisfaction. Nobody has the energy to congratulate him. The creature watches you. Its eye is huge and dark, with a pale rim around the edge. It seems tired. It seems as though it has been waiting through many years of other people's bad decisions. Mercy slowly reaches into her pocket and takes out Toby Knott's sugared almond. Oren turns to her, betrayed. That was Destiny's almond. Destiny will cope. She lets the almond drift from her fingers. It falls through the water and lands in the silt in front of the creature's nose. The creature lowers its head and sniffs. A low sound rolls through the water. You feel it in your ribs and teeth. The lake bed stirs. Silt rises in soft clouds. Small fish dart into the dark. As the mud lifts, something appears. A doorway. It has been hidden beneath weed and silt for a very long time. Now its arch shows clearly, carved with serpents, reeds and tiny curling waves. A flat black stone seals the center. Words have been carved into it. The lake keeps what the castle throws away. Cassian swims closer. Mercy grabs his sleeve. Do not touch the ominous door. The creature turns its eye from the doorway to you. You understand then. It tapped the window because it wanted the door found. The black stone grinds aside when all four of you press your wands to it. Bubbles stream out. A stale, sour taste fills the water like dust from a locked attic. Inside is a small chamber. There are shelves, rows and rows of shelves, oilcloth bundles, sealed jars, tarnished cups, broken wands, waterlogged books. A cracked silver mask, a child's shoe, a bundle of letters tied with green ribbon. Hundreds of tiny glass bottles sit in careful rows, each filled with a faint silver-green glow. Oren drifts very still. I dislike this kind of treasure. Cassian's expression changes. For once, he looks less polished. My grandfather said the old families gave things to the lake, he says. Objects they wanted gone but preserved. Mercy looks at him. Why would anyone preserve something they were ashamed of? Cassian's mouth tightens. You understand then. These things had not been abandoned. They had been hidden to wait. That felt unmistakably Slytherin. Keep the proof, guard the secret, and never give away what might one day become power. Your wand light passes over the shelves, then slips back to the lowest row, where, almost hidden in the greenish silt, sits a small brass box, its round lid marked with the same ridged pattern as the creature's glowing back. Inside it is a small bell, green with age and wrapped in black velvet. A silver thread has been tied tightly around the clapper, holding it still. Mercy leans closer. It's been silenced. You hold the bell carefully while Mercy tries the brass key against the thread. Cassian offers the edge of his hand mirror. Oren, after a guilty pause, produces the spoon he claimed to have left behind. Mercy turns very slowly. You stole the historic spoon. I preserved a tool. With great reluctance, Mercy accepts it. The spoon works, the thread snaps, the bell rings once. Underwater, the sound is clear and strange. It passes through the chamber, through your chest, and out into the lake. The creature raises its head. The plates along its spine glow brighter, soft and green as sunlight through bottle glass. Weed slides from its back. Silt falls away from its limbs. Then the chain appears. It had been buried beneath the mud. Now it glints along the lake bed, fixed to a collar of dark metal around the creature's neck. The other end runs beneath the chamber floor. Mercy goes very still. You follow the chain into the chamber. It passes beneath the shelves and into the stone floor. There is no visible lock, only a metal plate marked with 4 shallow hollows. Mercy kneels to examine them. A coin, a key, a tooth, a ring. Cassian produces a signet ring. Mercy has her brass key. Oren, after much offended searching, finds a chocolate coin wrapped in gold foil. That is confectionery, Cassian says. It has served me emotionally as currency. You place the ring, key, and chocolate coin into the hollows. Only the tooth remains. Everyone looks at Oren. No, he says. Mercy looks at Oren patiently. You carry your baby teeth in a pouch. That is private history. You said they were lucky. Luck has been inconsistent. Oren removes a small velvet pouch from inside his dressing gown and produces a tooth. I want this returned. Mercy places it in the hollow. For a second, the chamber is silent. Then the floor clicks. Outside, the chain shudders. Mud erupts around it. The collar opens and falls from the creature's neck, landing on the lake bed with a heavy final sound. The creature rises, slowly, freely. Water folds around its body. The current pushes you back as it passes the chamber entrance. One enormous eye turns towards you. In it, reflected small and wavering, you see 4 students in soaked nightclothes, trespassing at the bottom of a lake with a stolen spoon, and the moral certainty of people who will lie beautifully about this in the morning. The creature lowers its head and touches its brow to the stone before you. Cassian bows back. It is stiff, formal, and slightly ridiculous underwater. Mercy follows. Oren attempts to bow and rotates upside down. You catch his sleeve. Thank you, he says, his hair floating above his head like pondweed. The creature moves away into the lake. The plates along its back dim one by one, like lamps being turned down in a house at bedtime. The water settles behind it. The deep dark seems larger now, but calmer. You close the chamber as best you can. Mercy touches the bottle labeled "Apology Never Delivered," then lets her hand fall. That belongs to someone else, she says. Cassian takes a broken piece of the collar. That is evidence. That is incriminating, Mercy replies. Evidence often is. Oren retrieves his tooth and leaves the sugared almond in its place. The swim back feels easier. The cold is still there, and your robe still pulls heavily at your arms, but the fear has loosened. Your breathing has become slow and steady through the charm, in with the taste of water and stone, out with a stream of bubbles. By the time you reach the flooded stair, your limbs feel heavy with sleep. Cassian climbs out first and tries to wring out his dressing gown with dignity, which is impossible. Mercy's shoes slap wetly on the stone. Oren checks every pocket and looks relieved to find the cheese scone, although it has become more of a cheese sponge. Do not eat that, Mercy says. I was saving it for later. That answer has made things worse. You pass back through the round door, along the narrow corridor and behind the tapestry. The common room waits exactly as you left it. The lamps glow green. The fire burns low. Toby Knott is still asleep in the armchair, but the sugared almond on his book has gone. In its place lies a small wet pebble, smooth and dark as ink. Oren stares at it. Mercy picks up the pebble and turns it over. On one side, scratched so finely you have to lean close to see, is the shape of a tiny serpent. Cassian says nothing. That is how you know he is impressed. You return to the dormitory with your shoes in your hands and your wet socks leaving dark marks on the floor. The stove has burned lower and the room has reached that comfortable edge between warm and cool where blankets feel especially necessary. Beds wait in a row, curtains half open, pillows dented, books abandoned face down. Outside the window, the lake moves. Far away in the dark, something pale glows. It is distant enough to feel peaceful. The glow drifts once through the water, then fades. You change into dry nightclothes and hang your wet things where they will almost certainly be discovered in the morning. That is a problem for morning people, and nobody in this room currently qualifies. Oren gets into bed with the solemn care of someone boarding a ship. Mercy folds her parchment and places it under her pillow. Cassian wraps the piece of collar in a towel and locks it inside his trunk, because some people cannot resist creating future complications for themselves. You climb into bed. The sheets are cool when you first stretch your legs out, then gradually warm around you. The blanket settles heavily across your ribs. Your pillow smells of clean linen, candle smoke, and peppermint soap from somebody's parcel. The velvet curtains fall back into place, soft and dark around the bed. Across the room, Oren murmurs, "For the record, I identified the elbows." Mercy answers sleepily from behind her curtains. "For the record, you also tried to eat lake cherries." Cassian's voice comes from the far bed. "Go to sleep, Black Ettel." There is a pause. Then Oren says, "Do you think the creature had a name?" The dormitory grows quiet. You listen to the lake. The water moves slowly beyond the glass. The stove gives out little clicks as the last heat settles inside the iron. Someone turns over in bed, and the velvet curtains whisper against the stone floor. Mercy speaks at last. "I expect it did." Cassian's reply is softer than usual. Then perhaps it has gone to find someone who remembers it. Nobody says anything after that. The room grows still. The lake moves beyond the windows, deep and dark and wide. Somewhere beneath its surface, a freed creature passes through weed and stone, past lost spoons and old boats, and the sleeping roots of the castle. The soft green light along its back fades gently as it travels farther into the deep. Your breathing slows. The bed holds you warmly. The water keeps moving. Beneath the quiet windows of Slytherin, the last glow disappears into the dark. Sleep comes slowly, then all at once. The dormitory settles around you. The old stone keeps the warmth from the stove. The curtains around your bed hang heavy and soft, turning the world outside into a deep green shadow. Somewhere across the room, Oren gives a small sigh in his sleep. Mercy's parchment rustles once beneath her pillow. Cassian's trunk gives a quiet click, as though whatever he has hidden inside has already begun planning trouble for another day. You think of the creature moving freely through the dark water, carrying its pale green light through the weeds and sunken stones. You picture it passing the broken oar, the hidden doorway, the old chamber full of secrets, and the place where the collar fell away into the mud. Tomorrow there will be damp robes to explain. Tomorrow there may be questions about wet footprints in the common room. Tomorrow Toby Knott may wake to find a lake pebble in his hand and begin believing destiny has taken an interest in him. For now, the room is warm. The bed is soft beneath you. The lake is calm. Your eyes grow heavy as the water moves beyond the glass. Slow and steady, like the castle itself breathing in its sleep. And deep beneath Slytherin, where old secrets rest and strange creatures remember their names, the dark folds quietly over the last trace of green light.